was having, pardon me. So I was watching Bright to see if I could remember everything about the movie, and I'm 50 minutes into it with an hour and 7 to go. Um, but I remember enough about this movie at this particular moment now that I can honestly say this is a review now. I haven't gone to the end of the movie because I can remember everything that happened the first time I saw it. And I remember then, I didn't like the movie. I didn't like the movie the first time I saw it, and I still don't like the movie now. It's not that it's a bad movie. No, this movie is very dense. This movie is so deep with political subjects, with racial subjects. I mean, hot button topics are in this movie like just all over the fucking place. Okay. It's got racism, like tackling racism in this motherfucker too. It's really dense, and the the problem is it's too dense for a lot of its subject matter to be a like beginning story. There's too much here. Okay. First of all, the main plot of the story is Will Smith and his partner, and his partner being a orc, and Will Smith getting shot by a orc. There's so much there because you get little tidbits of information as the movie goes as to what the problem is. People thinking because he's an orc that, he just let the guy get away. You know what I'm saying? There is a lot of dense stuff going on here that really could be an entire movie in of itself. You know what I'm saying? Like how the orc world works, what an orc is, how they define orcs in this movie. It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense because, like I said, Bright isn't a bad movie, but it's the sequel to a lot of different movies. You can make a movie involving orcs leading up to the orc meeting Will Smith. And then that would be like the very first movie. But then you could have a sequel to that movie, which then that movie is building the relationship that leads up to Will Smith getting shot at the end of the movie, and therefore you enter Price. So it's like the third entry if you really want to condense all the stuff that's in Bright so it makes more sense. Like I said, it's not bad. The problem with Bright is it's almost a 2-hour movie that's like 3 movies at one time. You honestly don't really give a fuck about the story between him and the orc. You don't, because there's no real, like, were they close? You know what I'm saying? There was no, like, emotional connection between these two. So it's like that story doesn't even need to be there. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. It feels like a sequel, or possibly the end of a trilogy, or the beginning of like another trilogy. Like it seems like it's at the end of a beginning trilogy and then going into a new trilogy because of how the movie ends. And like I said, this is by all means a good movie for what it is, but it's so dense and the subject matter is so heavy, and it doesn't allow you to actually go through all the emotion you should. You get what I'm saying? I mean, you don't really get a break in this movie because of how heavy it is. You feel what I'm saying? And that's where Bright really starts to fall. The idea is amazing. I love the idea. Humans living with orcs, living with fairies, living with elves, all in one world. And it's like 2019. It's not no fantasy. It's an idea that this could be like a reality, and I like that idea. That's a good idea, because that can turn into a huge selling point for 8, 9 movies, man. This could turn into a whole huge thing if they go back and put in the first two, leading to Bright, and then they continue on this story. Because, like I said, it's not a bad concept. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's that it's too dense. It's too heavy and too quick between events for you to really digest and feel what you're supposed to about the situations while they're happening. You feel what I'm saying? There's a reason why when Tony Stark died in Avengers Endgame, people felt some type of way about it. You see what I'm saying? Because we had that relationship with this character. You feel what I'm saying? And Bright, oh, you have a bright ass future if Netflix turns you into a full-fledged like 7-movie deal, because people would love to see this. People want to see stuff like this. But you can't make them as dense, and you can't make them as heavy at the same speed as Bright. You gotta slow it down, and you gotta let us be able to absorb what we're seeing. Bright, only reason it's a bad movie is because of the fact you get no time to deal with what you're seeing on the screen. There's no get ready to adjust or get ready to feel. There's nothing, because you're going from one to the next so quick. And like I said, it wouldn't bother me if it wasn't such heavy subject matter. It wouldn't bother me. But the subject matter is just, it's so deep. It's so dense that you need to have a minute between each time. And there's not a minute to be had. So Bright, my boy, Netflix, this is another review of Netflix only movies. And Bright, I gotta say, is a thumbs down. Just off of the simple fact that you really have to watch it about 5-6 times just so you can get everything. And it's not that you can say that watching a movie 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 115 times is a bad thing, but for you to fully understand this movie, having to watch it that many times is utterly fucking useless. Especially when you consider the fact that if you were to spread this out over multiple movies, it could have been so much better and so much more. And that's just the truth, man. No disrespect towards Will Smith or anybody in his movie, but that's a fact. If they would have turned this into a whole trilogy or a whole franchise out this bitch, like a Nightmare on Elm Street type deal, this could have been one of the biggest things to hit Netflix ever. But due to the fact that they condensed it into one movie that's 2 hours, it fails. It just fails. Sorry. That's my opinion on it.